Welcome back, heathens. It is time for story time. You guys' favorite time. Actually, I don't know what really to call these Monday segments, but I get bugged every single year to talk about St. Patrick's Day, and that was before all of you from TikTok ever found me. People always want to know, like, oh, what do you do for St. Patty's Day? And to be perfectly honest, we don't do anything. And I know that's going to be a little bit weird for people to understand, but most places in Europe do not celebrate St. Patrick's Day as a whole. But I do have a little bit of interesting information on a festival that happens beforehand. Now, the festival we refer to just as festival, but it is, okay, let me see if I can remember this. Filgolor Solis. Filgolor Solis, so it's technically the festival of many things, or many lights, or just the festival of lights. So lights, as you guys know, refer to like souls. It refers to the energy that makes up all of nature in our mythologies and what our clan believes. So the Festival of Many Lights is kind of like our Christmas. It's the big apex festival that goes on every year. And again, we just call it festival, so I actually had to dig through a bunch of my old journals to find the actual name because I couldn't remember. But yes, so that festival is a week long, and it starts on March 9th and it ends on March 16th, and it is followed by a special day on March 17th, which you all know as St. Paddy's Day. And we'll get to that at the end. But first, I'm going to tell you guys how to celebrate the Festival of Many Lights one day at a time. So let's go. So each of the days in the festival is referred to as a song. So the tradition is that there's a certain kind of meal, and you'll have to forgive me, I don't remember all of them. I'm going to post as many recipes as I can to Discord, Reddit, and over on Twitter, and I'll include some of them here as well, but there's just not going to be as much information here because I don't remember all of them offhand. And when you guys started asking for this video, I didn't have a whole lot of time to look up all of the information, so we're going to go over the very basics, and if you guys want more, I'll give you more, and I'll try to put out more on TikTok as well. Okay, so the first song is called the Song of Food. Now, I'll give you guys the Gaelic here, but I didn't have time to do it all, so I'll do the Gaelic here, but it's the Song of Food. Now, the Song of Food, it basically refers to, like, obviously feasting, and we literally sing songs about food and eating and tell stories about old meals and recipes and the lot, and that is what is done during the first day of the festival. It is a festival of feast and food and enjoyment. And that's it. It's that simple. You talk about food, you sing about food, you play songs about food, all of the above. I mean, the Christians might call it the Day of Gluttony, but we call it Monday. All right. The second day is called the Song of Drink, and it is just like the Song of Food. These ones are actually very simple. The Song of Drink refers to songs about drinking, songs about drink of the past, stories about drinking. So when you've gone out drinking with friends, drinks that you've had with family, drinks that you've had with notable people, it's a song about the life that we live over a drink. And honestly, this is usually many people's favorite because there's a lot of liquor that goes into it, there's a lot of dancing and singing, and it is hands down one of the sort of neatest days because it's very light-hearted, but at the same time you get to have a lot of depth because you'd be surprised how much of your life has been lived over a drink. Alright, let's move on to Wednesday, which we refer to as the Song of Dance. And the Song of Dance is okay, so the Song of Dance and the day that follows is called the Song of Fight. So Wednesday and Thursday, Song of Dance, Song of Fight, and they kind of meld into each other, though the tradition is that no one really sleeps in between the days, and we have games festivals, we have physical competitions, we have hurling, we have stone throws, we have javelin throws, we have field wrestling, hill wrestling, we have foe fighting, where sometimes it's with live steel, sometimes it's with sticks, sometimes it's with staves, and stabs, stabs. And yeah, so it's more or less like songs about fighting, songs about dancing, and everything in between. And there, of course, are dances and field games and all that, and they sort of meld into each other. And it's a really active series of days, and usually people are very wiped out after it's all said and done. My grandfather actually refers to it as the Battle of the Midweek, because afterwards everyone is dead. Alright, moving on to Friday. Now, Friday, it starts to get a little bit more serious, and we have the Song of Life. And, of course, Friday and Saturday, Song of Life and Song of Death. And really, it sounds a lot more like solemn than it is, but it's not so much solemn as much as it is serious, and we sing about songs of new life and new opportunity, and you'd be surprised how many songs there are. And I keep wanting to say my people, but my clan, our family, what they do is they do use new songs, but they also use old songs that have been around for ages. And you'd be surprised how many there are about opportunity, the having of children, the death of relatives, the passing on. And usually these are actually very happy songs. And there's a song by a band called the Finians, and if I can find it, I'll put a clip in of it here. It'll probably get copyright claimed, but I don't care because it's a great song. But it says that they say in terms of love and war that the Irish are quite mad, for our songs of war are merry and our songs of love are sad. And that is very true. Like, all of our songs about love and life are well, about love are sad, and then all of our songs about living and dying, they are very happy. So that's what is celebrated on these days. And there are feasts that go along with each day. I think I was forgetting to mention that. And it goes from everything to like baked cabbage, and like the early days we actually call stew days, because the first 2 or 3 days are different types of stews, and then in the midweek you have during the games you have baked cabbages, because they're very rich but they're not very heavy, so you can do a lot more physical activity on them and not get tuckered out. And then you have, on the last 2 days, you have, which is the Song of Life and the Song of Death, you have shepherd's pie on both days, but on one day it's made with lamb and one day it's made with beef. And there's something to be said about that, because lamb represents new life and beef has sort of a connotation of death, but not like negatively. I don't know if that makes sense, but beef as a meal has a connotation to death. Like at funerals and such, we typically have a beef dish to go along with whatever else is going on, and lamb is usually had with new things like new business opportunities, New Year's, it's always usually lamb. And that being said, we will move on to the last day in the festival, which is, well, the technical last day in the festival, which is the Song of Light. Now, the Song of Light is the biggest meal of all. It's usually held at my grandfather's house. Obviously, you're not all going to go to my grandfather's house, but it's typically held at like a matriarch or a patriarch's home. And the meal is a rack of lamb with a plethora of stewed and baked items. And again, I apologize I don't have all of these recipes right now. I'll put out as many of them as I can remember on our Reddit page, which is r/YeezusHeathens, my Twitter, which is @RiosLemYeezus, and also on my private Discord server, which you get into for like $1 on Patreon. But I'll put them all out on those places. Yeah, okay, so there's all of that, and the Song of Light goes over everything. It is the entirety of our history. It's usually songs about ancestors and history and great battles and great feats, and it's very much about everything. It's not so much just about what people do as much as what everything does. It's the songs of nature. It is the songs about the world that we live in. And they're not actually just Irish songs. We play a lot of songs from all over the world. Usually we try to play and sing them ourselves, but we're Irish, so there's not a whole lot of good Irish singers out there. Sorry, Ed Sheeran. Just telling people like it is. And then the last day of the festival is the end of the festival, and it's what would be typically referred to as St. Paddy's Day, or St. Patrick's Day if you're being a little bit more respectful. And that day we refer to as the Song of Silence. And the Song of Silence is not necessarily like a day of mourning, but more a day of respect. And it's a day when we quiet ourselves, we look inward so that we can hear the songs of the ancestors, but most specifically the songs of those who died unnecessarily. Basically, it's about theft of innocence, and that's what we call it when a life is ended early or a life is stolen unnecessarily due to unnecessary violence, death in youth, any of these things, any time that a life is ended for no real purpose, we use the Song of Silence, March 17th, as a day to look back and remember and hear all of their songs ring out so that we can pay special respect to those who have been lost. All of the ancestors, but heavily focused on those who were lost too soon. And that's why it's kind of interesting that St. Paddy's Day is this day of massive revelry, when for us it's always been a day of solemn remembrance. And of course we still celebrate, and it's still a day of joy, as most of these celebrations are. But it's always been interesting to me that the Catholic Church and Americans in general have made one of their biggest days of revelry on one of the only days of solemn remembrance in all of Gaelic culture. And again, I don't mean that in all of Gaelic culture. Obviously, I want to remind everybody that these are my family's traditions, and they are very, very specific to us. I don't see a whole lot of them being practiced outside of our clan, even though our clan is fairly big. It's not something that is widespread, especially in academic and modern translations of what it is our people did back in the olden days. But that being said, I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, it would mean the world to me if you just absolutely annihilated that motherfucking subscribe button till it is just absolutely worthless pile of red chips below this video, and then gently ring the bell so that every time my voice echoes out into the universe, you will be notified and you can come on back for another story. And don't forget, you can follow me on all of the things. You can follow me on Reddit at r/YeezusHeathens, Instagram and Twitter at RealSlimYeezus. You can follow me on TikTok, where this all began, at the RealSlimYeezus. And of course, I do have a Patreon page where you can pick up my podcast and a couple of exclusive things early, and as well as get readings of stories. And then lastly, but certainly not least, because it's my favorite project I'm working on right now, my podcast, Endless Epic, where we pay respects to the beautiful art of storytelling. And I have been thrilled by how many people have already been enjoying it. So if you could dip on over, it is Endless Epic, wherever you get your podcasts from. Alright guys, I love you. Stay bloodthirsty, my friends, and remember, all hail.